The grand celebration hall on Nexus Prime sparkled with 1,000 different lights. Each beam came from the unique technology of the various alien races that made up the Galactic Federation. Captain Jinho Park stood at the center of it all, wearing his best-dressed uniform as representatives from dozens of worlds applauded around him. "Another successful peace mission," said Christek, the Veltar engineer who served on Jinho's ship. The crystalline being's body chimed softly as he moved, creating musical notes that meant happiness in his species' language. "The border dispute between my people and the Mordan could have lasted decades without human help." Jinho smiled and shook his head. "We just helped you talk to each other. You did the real work." This was typical of humans, always giving credit to others. It was one of the reasons the Federation valued them so much as peacekeepers. Across the hall, Dr. Yunji, Kim was explaining her latest research to a group of fascinated alien scientists. She had spent years studying how different species could work together better. Her work had helped create new medical treatments, improved ship designs, and better communication systems between races that had nothing in common. "The key is understanding that each species has strengths the others lack," Yunji was saying to her audience. "Humans are good at seeing the big picture and finding creative solutions. The Veltar have amazing technical skills. The Mordan understand complex systems better than anyone. When we combine our abilities, we can solve problems none of us could handle alone." The alien scientists nodded and clicked and hummed their agreement. Dr. Kim's theories had become the foundation of Federation cooperation. Her research centers were on every major world, teaching aliens and humans how to work together. Meanwhile, in a quieter corner of the celebration, Admiral Minho Lee was having a different kind of conversation. Lieutenant Yuna Choi, his intelligence officer, had pulled him aside with some concerning news. "Sir, we're seeing unusual military movements in several sectors," Yuna said quietly. "The Krethak have been moving ships toward their border regions. The Saurians have increased patrols around their core worlds. Even some of the smaller races are building up their defenses." Admiral Lee frowned. "Have they given any reasons?" "They say it's routine security upgrades. Nothing to worry about." Yuna didn't look convinced. "But the timing is strange. Why would so many different races decide to upgrade their militaries at the same time?" The Admiral considered this. In his 30 years of service, he had learned to trust his instincts. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on what. "Keep monitoring the situation, but don't make it obvious. We don't want to seem suspicious of our allies." Neither of them knew that their conversation was being watched. Hidden sensors throughout the hall were recording everything, sending the information to secret locations across the galaxy. The Galactic Federation's other races had been planning this moment for months. In a hidden facility deep beneath the surface of a dead world, representatives from the major alien powers were holding their own meeting. The chamber was dark and cold, lit only by the glow of communication screens showing faces from across the galaxy. Hive Queen Zekhai of the Krethak spoke first. Her insectoid features were hard to read, but her voice carried the authority of someone who commanded billions of drones. "The humans have become too powerful. Their influence grows stronger every year. Soon they will not need us at all." War Marshal Thexvor of the Saurians agreed. His reptilian eyes glowed with anger. "They pretend to be peacemakers, but look how quickly they solve our problems. They make us look weak and stupid. My people ruled the stars for 1,000 years before humans even learned to use fire. Now they ask human opinion before making any important decision." Other voices joined in from across the galaxy. The aquatic Mordan complained that humans were taking over their research projects. The machine-like Tektari worried that human creativity was making their advanced technology look outdated. Even the peaceful plant-like Verdani felt threatened by human agricultural improvements. The solution is simple, Hive Queen Zekhai continued. We remove them from the equation. All of them. Every human ship, every human world, every human research station. We do it quickly, before they can respond. But they trust us completely, said one of the other voices. Many of our people work on human ships. Humans work on our worlds. They will not see the attack coming. That is exactly why it will work, War Marshal Thexvor said. They believe we are friends. They have made themselves vulnerable by spreading their people across the galaxy. When we strike, they will have no way to coordinate a defense. The planning had been going on for months. Each race had been secretly moving their people away from human areas. They had been studying human technology, learning its weaknesses. They had even been mapping human colonies and outposts, preparing target lists. Back at the celebration, Captain Jinho Park was unaware that several of his trusted crew members were sending final status reports to their home worlds. Kristek, the Veltar engineer who had served with him for 3 years, was confirming that the ship's weapons and shields could be disabled from engineering. Aquilus, the Mordan navigator, was uploading the locations of every human military base in the sector. The party was reaching its peak. Human diplomats were making speeches about the bright future of galactic cooperation. Alien leaders were presenting awards to human peacekeepers. Everyone was talking about the golden age they were building together. Dr. Yoonji Kim had finished her presentation and was now talking casually with some of her research partners. She was excited about a new project that would help different species share knowledge even more efficiently. She had no idea that the alien scientists listening to her were memorizing every detail of human research facilities. Admiral Lee and Lieutenant Choi had returned to the main celebration, but both still felt uneasy. The Admiral made a mental note to quietly increase security around Earth and the major human colonies. It was probably nothing, but it was better to be safe. As the evening continued, Captain Park found himself thinking about how much had changed since humans first joined the Galactic Federation. 300 years ago, his people had been alone on a single world, just beginning to explore their own solar system. Now they were partners with dozens of alien races, helping to keep peace across thousands of worlds. The irony was cruel. At sea, the exact moment when Captain Park was feeling most grateful for the friendship of alien races, those same races were putting the finishing touches on their plan to wipe humanity from existence. The celebration began to wind down as representatives prepared to return to their home worlds. There were warm goodbyes, promises to meet again soon, and expressions of gratitude for another successful peace mission. Humans and aliens embraced as friends, completely unaware that this would be the last time they would meet as allies. Captain Park walked back to his ship feeling satisfied with another job well done. Dr. Kim was already planning her next research project. Admiral Lee was looking forward to a quiet period without any major crises to handle. None of them realized that the galaxy's other races had just finished preparing for the largest coordinated attack in galactic history. The trap was set, the weapons were ready, and the betrayal was about to begin. The golden age of cooperation was about to end in blood and fire. The joint training exercise in the Kepler sector was supposed to be routine. Captain Jinho Park stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching dozens of Federation ships move in perfect formation around them. Human vessels flew alongside Krethak. hive ships, saurian battle cruisers, and the elegant organic ships of the Mordan. All ships are in position for the combat simulation, reported Aquilas from the navigation station. The Mordan officer had been with the crew for 2 years, and Jinho trusted him completely. Excellent. Begin the exercise, Jinho ordered. That was when everything went wrong. The first sign of trouble was the ship's power systems flickering. Then the weapons array went offline. Before anyone could react, emergency alarms started blaring throughout the ship. "What's happening?" Jinho demanded. Commander Hyok Nam, his first officer, was frantically checking his displays. "Sir, we're losing power to all major systems. It looks like someone is shutting us down from engineering." Jinho felt a cold chill run down his spine. He turned to look at Kristek, who was standing at the engineering station. The Veltar's crystalline body was glowing brighter than usual, and his hands were dancing across the control panels. "Kristek, what are you doing?" The alien engineer looked up, and for the first time since Jinho had known him, there was no friendliness in his voice. "What I should have done long ago, human." Before Jinho could respond, the ship shook violently. On the main screen, he could see Federation vessels opening fire on human ships throughout the fleet. The elegant Mordan vessels were using their bioweapons against human crews. The massive Krethak hive ships were swarming smaller human vessels with fighter craft. "Betrayal," whispered Hyok, his face pale with shock. At the navigation station, Aquilas was trying to upload something from the ship's computers. Jinho lunged toward him, but the Mordan was too quick. His aquatic features twisted into something ugly as he spoke. "You humans think you are so clever, but we have been studying you for years. We know every weakness, every flaw in your technology. Your ships are already defeated." Around them, human crew members were fighting desperately with their alien colleagues. The betrayal was happening on every level, from the bridge to engineering to the weapons bays. Years of trust and friendship were being shattered in minutes. Hyok managed to reach the emergency communication system before Kristek could shut it down completely. With trembling fingers, he sent out a desperate message to any human ships that could still receive it. "All human vessels, this is the UES Harmony. We are under attack by Federation forces. Repeat, Federation forces have turned hostile. This is not a drill. We are being betrayed." The message went out just as the ship's communication array died. Across the galaxy, human commanders received those final words and realized that their worst nightmare was coming true. On Earth, General Subin Kang was in her office reviewing routine reports when the emergency signals started coming in. At first, she thought it was a mistake. The messages were fragmented and made no sense. Federation ships attacking humans? It was impossible. But as more signals arrived, the terrible truth became clear. The attack was not limited to the Kepler sector. Human colonies throughout the galaxy were under assault. Research stations were being destroyed. Diplomatic outposts were going silent one by one. "Get me Admiral Lee immediately," General Kang ordered her staff, "and activate all planetary defense systems. Now!" Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, Dr. Yoonji Kim was in her laboratory when the attack began. She was working late on a new project when her alien research partner, a gentle Verdani scientist named Bloomheart, suddenly grabbed her arm. "Yoonji, you must leave. Now!" the plant-like being said urgently. "The others do not know I am warning you, but my people have chosen to join the others. You are in great danger." Dr. Kim stared at her friend in shock. "What are you talking about? Join who in what?" "The Federation races have decided that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to continue. They are attacking all human positions simultaneously. You have perhaps minutes before security forces come for you." Yunji's mind raced. Her research, her life's work, everything she had built on Nexus Prime, it was all about to be destroyed. But Bloomheart was risking his own life to warn her. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "Because I have worked with humans for 20 years. I know what you truly are. You are not conquerors or threats. You are teachers and healers. What my people are doing is wrong." Together, they fled through the back passages of the research complex. Behind them, Yunji could hear the sounds of explosions and weapons fire. The Federation was moving quickly to eliminate all human presence on their capital world. They reached a small ship hidden in a maintenance bay. It belonged to another alien scientist, a Mordan named Deep Current, who had also chosen to help the humans despite the risk to his own life. "The conspiracy runs deeper than you can imagine," Deep Current told Yunji as they prepared to escape. "They have been planning this for months. Every major race is involved. They studied your weaknesses, mapped your colonies, and prepared for total elimination of your species." As their ship lifted off from Nexus Prime, Yunji watched through the viewport as Federation forces systematically destroyed every human facility on the planet. Years of research and cooperation were being erased in hours. Back in the Kepler sector, Captain Park was fighting for his ship and his crew. With most systems offline, the Harmony was helpless against the Federation attack. But Jinho was not ready to give up. "Hyuk, can you get me partial power to the engines?" "I'm trying, sir, but Christek has locked us out of most systems." The Veltar engineer was still at his station, methodically shutting down every system that could help the humans fight back. But he had made one mistake. He had underestimated human determination. Lieutenant Yuna Choi, who had been quietly moving through the ship, appeared behind Christek with a plasma cutter from the maintenance bay. "Step away from the controls," she ordered. The crystalline being turned toward her, his body ringing with what Jinho recognized as laughter. "You cannot stop what has already been set in motion, human. Your species' time is over." "Maybe," Yuna replied grimly. "But you won't be here to see it." She fired the plasma cutter, and Christek's crystalline form shattered into 1,000 pieces. Immediately, several ship systems came back online. "Engines at 40%, reported Hayok. "Weapons are still down, but we have navigation and communications." Through the chaos of battle around them, Jinho could see that some human ships were managing to escape. The Federation had planned for a quick total victory, but they had underestimated human adaptability and fighting spirit. "Set course for Earth," Jinho ordered. "Best possible speed." As the Harmony limped away from the battlefield, Jinho looked back at the carnage behind them. Dozens of human ships had been destroyed, thousands of his people were dead, and the galactic alliance they had spent centuries building was broken forever. But something else was building in its place. Jinho could feel it in himself and see it in the faces of his surviving crew. The aliens had wanted to eliminate humanity because they feared human potential. Instead, they had just unleashed something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. The betrayal was complete, but so was humanity's awakening. The galaxy would learn what humans were truly capable of when pushed too far. The war had begun, and the aliens had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. The Federation fleet approached Earth with confidence. They had studied human defenses for years and believed they knew exactly what to expect. Director Jinwoo Song sat in the command center of Earth's orbital defense platform watching the enemy. "Ships on his screens." "Sir, they're coming in fast," reported Colonel Minji Han from the Lunar Defense Base. 300 ships, mixed Federation forces. They're not even trying to hide their approach." Jinwoo smiled grimly. The aliens thought Earth would be easy prey. They had no idea what humans had been building while they planned their betrayal. All stations, this is Director Song. Prepare for defensive action. Show them what happens when you attack the human homeworld. The first surprise came when the Federation ships reached what they thought was Earth's outer defense perimeter. Hidden, platforms that had been disguised as space debris suddenly powered up, revealing massive weapons that had never appeared on any Federation scan. War Marshal HFY, commanding the assault from his flagship, watched in shock as his advanced ships were torn apart by weapons that shouldn't exist. How do they have this technology? Our intelligence said Earth's defenses were minimal. The second surprise was the speed of human response. Colonel Han's lunar bases launched waves of fighters that moved faster than anything in the Federation. Database. The ships used new engine technology that Earth scientists had developed in secret, based on theoretical work that aliens had dismissed as impossible. They're adapting to our tactics in real time, reported one of HFY's officers. Every time we change formation, they counter it immediately. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had learned from centuries of working with them. While the Federation races saw cooperation as a weakness, humans had used it to study every alien military doctrine in the galaxy. They knew how each race fought, how they thought, and how to beat them. Captain Jinho Park's damaged ship reached Earth just as the battle was reaching its peak. Despite the Harmony's condition, Jinho immediately joined the defense. His knowledge of Federation tactics proved invaluable. The Krithak Hive ships rely on swarm tactics, he told General Kong over the communications system. If you can take out their command nodes, the smaller ships lose coordination. The Saurian cruisers have heavy front armor but weak sides, added Commander Hyoknam. Hit them from the flanks and they fold quickly. As the battle continued, Earth's defenders revealed advantage after advantage. Dr. Yoonji Kim's research into alien biology had led to countermeasures that the Federation never expected. Human ships carried devices that disrupted Krithak Hive communications, making their swarms turn on each other. They had weapons that overloaded Veltar crystal technology, causing their ships to tear themselves apart. But the biggest shock for the Federation came when they realized that humans had been hiding their true technological capabilities for decades. Engineer Taeyang Ko, working from his laboratory deep beneath Seoul, had been secretly improving on every piece of alien technology that passed through human hands. "Sir, their ships are using our own weapons against us," reported a panicked Saurian officer. "But they're more powerful than they should be. How is that possible?" The answer was simple but devastating. Humans had taken Federation technology and made it better. They had combined the best features of different alien systems, added their own innovations, and created hybrid technologies that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. As Federation, ships continued to fall around Earth. Intelligence Officer Da Yun Yu was busy with her own mission. She had spent years building contacts throughout the galaxy, and now those relationships were paying off. Many aliens were secretly horrified by their leader's decision to commit genocide against humanity. The Mordan population on Kepler 7th is refusing to attack the human research station, she reported to General Kang. 3 Veltar crystal ships have defected to our side. Even some Krithak drones are breaking from their hive programming. The Federation had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed that all their people would follow orders without question. They hadn't considered that many aliens had personal relationships with humans, or that some might have moral objections to mass murder. Meanwhile, on the colony world of New Seoul, Planetary Governor Gunho Shin was proving that humans could adapt to any situation. When Federation forces invaded his world, he didn't try to fight them with conventional tactics. Instead, he used humanity's greatest strength, creativity. "We can't match their firepower," Gunho told his colonists, "but we don't need to. We just need to make them wish they had never come here." The human colonists began a guerrilla campaign that baffled the aliens. They used the planet's geography against the invaders, setting traps that took advantage of each species' biological weaknesses. They turned the aliens' own technology against them, using captured equipment in ways the original designers never intended. Most importantly, they fought with a unity and determination that the Federation couldn't understand. Unlike the rigid hierarchies of alien societies, humans could adapt their tactics instantly based on changing conditions. Every colonist was thinking, planning, and improvising. "These humans fight like no enemy we have ever faced," reported the Krethak commander. "On New Sol, they do not follow predictable patterns. Each group fights differently, but they all work toward the same goal. We cannot anticipate their next move." Back at Earth, the tide of battle was turning decisively in humanity's favor. War Marshal Thexvor watched as his supposedly superior fleet was systematically destroyed by defenders who should have been easy prey. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships, withdraw to the outer system." But Director Song wasn't about to let them escape. "All units, pursue the enemy fleet. I want prisoners for interrogation. It's time we learned exactly how far this conspiracy goes." The pursuit became a rout. Human ships, no longer hiding their capabilities, proved faster and more maneuverable than anything the Federation had. Their weapons cut through alien defenses like they were made of paper. Their shields deflected attacks that should have vaporized them. By the time the battle ended, the Federation assault fleet had been reduced to a handful of crippled ships. The mighty armada that was supposed to conquer Earth lay burning in space, a testament to the fatal error of underestimating humanity. Captain Park stood on his bridge, looking at the wreckage floating around Earth. 6 months ago, he had been celebrating galactic friendship on Nexus Prime. Now, he was watching the remains of former allies drift past his ship. "They wanted to eliminate us because they thought we were becoming too powerful," he said to Hayok. "Instead, they just taught us exactly how powerful we really are." The first phase of the war was over, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Federation had revealed their true intentions, and humanity had revealed their true capabilities. The galaxy would never be the same, but the aliens had made one final fatal error. They had believed that humans were weak because they valued cooperation and friendship. What they failed to understand was that those same qualities made humans incredibly dangerous when those friendships were betrayed. The Federation had wanted to start a war of extermination. They were about to learn that humans were very good at finishing what others started. 6 months had passed since the Federation's betrayal, and the galaxy was learning what happened when humanity stopped being nice. Admiral Minho Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as reports came in from across human space. The news would have been impossible to believe just a year ago. "Sir, we've retaken the Proxima colonies," reported his communications officer. "Governor Shin's forces have driven the last Federation troops off New Sol, and we're getting reports that 3 more alien worlds want to negotiate surrender." Admiral Lee had supposedly died in the initial attack at Kepler Sector. That's what the Federation believed, and Lee was happy to let them think so. While they celebrated his death, he had spent months gathering scattered human forces from the galactic rim preparing for a counterattack that would shock the entire galaxy. "What's our fleet status?" he asked. 200 ships ready for immediate deployment, sir. All equipped with the new technology packages from Engineer Ko's labs. The crews are eager to begin offensive operations. Engineer Taeyong Ko had exceeded everyone's expectations. Working with salvaged Federation technology and Dr. Kim's biological research, he had created weapons and ship systems that made human vessels superior to anything in the galaxy. The aliens' own technology, improved by human innovation, was now being used to destroy them. On Earth, Dr. Yoonji Kim was putting the finishing touches on her latest project. The research that had once been aimed at helping different species work together was now focused on tearing the Federation apart from within. "The biological agents are ready for deployment," she told General Kang during their morning briefing. "They're species-specific and non-lethal, but they'll disable alien technology by interfering with the biological interfaces their ships use." "Non-lethal?" General Kang raised an eyebrow. "Doctor, they tried to commit genocide against our entire species." "I know," Yoonji replied quietly. "But we're not them. We can win this war without becoming monsters. The agents will leave the aliens helpless but alive. What we do with them after that is a separate decision." This was the difference the Federation had never understood. Humans could be absolutely ruthless in achieving their goals, but they didn't enjoy cruelty for its own sake. They fought to win, not to inflict suffering. Captain Jinho Park was learning this lesson firsthand as he led the Yi assault on Centauri Junction, a strategic starbase that controlled shipping routes throughout the inner galaxy. The battle showcased everything that made human warfare so terrifying to their enemies. "Enemy fleet is responding exactly as predicted," reported Commander Hyok Nam. "The Krethak ships are forming their standard swarm pattern. Saurian vessels are moving to protect the flanks." "Good," Jinho replied. "Then they're about to learn why predictable tactics don't work against humans. Execute Plan Delta." What happened next would have been impossible under the old Federation military doctrine. Human ships split into a dozen different formations, each one adapting to local conditions in real time. Some ships used Veltar crystal technology to phase through enemy shields. Others employed Mordan bioweapons that turned alien ships' own systems against them. But the most devastating advantage was purely human, the ability to innovate under pressure. When Krethak fighters swarmed one human cruiser, the ship's crew improvised a new use for their sensor array, turning it into a weapon that disrupted the aliens' hive communications. The fighters immediately lost coordination and began attacking each other. "How are they doing this?" demanded the Federation commander. "Each human ship fights differently, but they all work together perfectly. It's like they're reading our minds." The truth was both simpler and more complex. Humans had spent centuries learning how to work with different alien species. They understood how each race thought, how they fought, and how they made decisions. Now they were using that knowledge to predict and counter every Federation move. Lieutenant Yuna Choi had become something of a legend among human special forces. Her team specialized in boarding actions against alien vessels, and they had yet to fail a mission. Today, they were infiltrating a Saurian command ship to capture enemy intelligence. "Remember," she told her team as their shuttle approached the enemy vessel, "Saurians rely on strict hierarchy. Take out the senior officers and the rest will freeze up while waiting for orders." The mission went exactly as planned. Choi's team moved through the ship like ghosts, using their knowledge of Saurian psychology to avoid confrontation when possible and end fights quickly when necessary. Within an hour, they had the ship's entire command staff in custody. and were downloading classified Federation communications. What they found was even better than expected. The Federation leadership was in chaos. Their carefully planned genocide had turned into a disaster, and they were beginning to turn on each other. The Veltar are blaming the Krithak for underestimating human technology, Choi reported to Admiral Lee. The Saurians are angry because they've lost the most ships. 3 minor races are already talking about switching sides. Intelligence. Officer Da-Hyun Yu was working to encourage those divisions. She had contacts throughout the galaxy, many of them aliens who had worked with humans before the war. They were helping to spread information about Federation failures and human victories. The key is to make them realize they can't win, she explained to her team. Every Federation defeat makes more aliens question whether this war was a good idea. Every human victory shows them that we're not the easy prey they expected. But the most important change was happening in the human military itself. General Kang watched as reports came in from training facilities across Earth and the remaining human colonies. Young humans were volunteering for military service in numbers not seen since the early days of space exploration. They're not joining because they hate aliens, observed Colonel Minji Han. They're joining because they believe in what we're fighting for. The Federation tried to exterminate us for being too successful. Now we're going to show them what real success looks like. The new human military was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It combined the best tactical knowledge from every alien species with uniquely human advantages like adaptability, creativity, and the ability to work as both individuals and a unified force. Most importantly, it was learning from every battle. Human commanders shared information instantly across the entire fleet. Tactics that worked in one battle were immediately tested and refined in others. Weapons and ship designs evolved in real time based on combat experience. We're not just fighting a war, Admiral Lee realized as he reviewed the latest battle reports. We're revolutionizing warfare itself. Every engagement teaches us something new about what we're capable of. The Federation had made their greatest mistake when they assumed that human emotions made them weak. Love for their families motivated human soldiers to fight harder. Loyalty to their comrades made them willing to take risks for each other. And anger at the betrayal gave them a focus that no alien military could match. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Lee looked at the strategic display showing human forces advancing on multiple fronts. 6 months ago, the Federation had controlled most of the galaxy. Now they were losing territory every day, and their military advantage was evaporating. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender requests from 4 more Federation outposts. Should we accept them? Yes, but with conditions, Lee replied. Full disarmament, reparations for damages, and complete intelligence cooperation. Make it clear that surrender is their only option. The alternative is facing humanity fully unleashed. The galaxy was beginning to understand that the Federation had awakened something terrible. Humans weren't just fighting back. They were winning so decisively that the outcome was no longer in doubt. The only question was how much of the Federation would survive humanity's response to their betrayal. The war was far from over, but its direction was already clear. The aliens had tried to eliminate humanity and failed. Now they would learn what elimination really looked like. 1 year after the betrayal, the galaxy was a very different place. General Subin Kong stood in the war room beneath Seoul, looking at a holographic map that showed the latest human advances. What she saw would have been unthinkable just months before. Operation Fury is ready to begin, reported Colonel Minji Han. All human forces are in position for simultaneous liberation of our remaining colonies. We have 300 ships, 50,000 ground troops, and support from local resistance movements on every targeted world. General Kang nodded. The operation would be the largest coordinated attack in human history, designed to free every human world on the same day. It was ambitious, perhaps impossible, but that had never stopped humans before. What about enemy? Strength? Scattered and demoralized, replied Intelligence Officer Da-Hyun Yu. Federation forces are spread thin, trying to maintain control of too many worlds. Their communication systems are still disrupted by Dr. Kim's biological agents, so they can't coordinate a proper defense. The biological warfare had been devastatingly effective. Dr. Kim's targeted agents didn't harm alien biology directly, but they interfered with the organic interfaces that most alien species use to control their technology. Krethak hive ships couldn't communicate with their fighters. Mordan vessels lost their ability to self-repair. Veltar crystal arrays became unstable and dangerous to their operators. They're fighting with one hand tied behind their backs, Engineer Taeyang Ko explained from his workshop on Earth. Their ships still work, but they can't use them effectively. Meanwhile, our technology just keeps getting better. Ko had revolutionized human military capabilities by reverse engineering and improving every piece of Federation technology that fell into their hands. Human ships now outclass their alien counterparts in every category: speed, firepower, defense, and most importantly, adaptability. Captain Jinho Park was leading one of the liberation fleets toward the Vega colonies, where humans had been enslaved to work in alien mining operations. His ship, the rebuilt Harmony, carried weapons that would have seemed like magic to the Federation forces that had attacked him a year ago. "Enemy fleet detected," reported Commander Hyok Nam. 12 Saurian cruisers and support vessels. They're moving to intercept us. "Good," Jinho replied calmly. "Let's show them what happens when they enslave our people." The battle was over in minutes. Human ships moved like they were dancing, their crews working together with a precision that no alien force could match. They used Federation weapons better than the aliens who built them, combined different technologies in ways their creators never imagined, and adapted their tactics in real time as the battle progressed. The Saurian commander watched helplessly as his ships were systematically disabled. Human weapons carved through their defenses like hot knives through butter. When he tried to retreat, human vessels simply outran him, cutting off his escape routes with casual ease. "How are they so fast?" he demanded of his surviving officers. "Their ships are using our own engine technology." "They've improved it," came the bitter reply. "They've improved everything. Our weapons, our shields, our sensors. They've taken our technology and made it better than we ever could." This was humanity's secret weapon, the ability to learn from anything and everything. While alien species had spent centuries perfecting their individual technologies, humans had spent that time studying how all those technologies could work together. Now they were using that knowledge to devastating effect. On the surface of Vega 4, human colonists had been watching the space battle through hidden cameras. When they saw the Federation fleet being destroyed, they began their own uprising. Planetary Governor Gunho Shin had been secretly organizing resistance cells throughout the year, and now they struck simultaneously across the planet. "The aliens rely on their technology too much," Gunho had told his people. "Take that away, and they're helpless." The colonists used Dr. Kim's biological agents to disable alien equipment, then attacked with improvised weapons and captured Federation gear. They moved like ghosts through the mining complexes, using their knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver alien forces that had superior numbers and firepower. But the most devastating aspect of the human uprising was psychological. The aliens had spent a year telling themselves that humans were weak, defeated, and broken. Suddenly, they were facing enemies who fought with a skill and determination that seemed impossible. "They're not acting like a conquered people," reported one confused Krethak commander. "They fight like they know they're going to win." The truth was that humans did know they were going to win. Information flowed freely between resistance cells, human fleets, and Earth Command. Every human knew about every victory, every successful liberation, every alien defeat. They could see the big picture in a way that the Federation's rigid hierarchies couldn't match. Lieutenant Yuna Choi's Special Forces teams were operating throughout the galaxy, striking at key Federation facilities. They had become masters of infiltration and sabotage, using their understanding of alien psychology to maximum advantage. Krethak drones can't function without constant instructions from their commanders, she explained to a new team preparing for a mission. Take out the command structure and they'll just stand there waiting for orders that never come. Her latest mission was a raid on a Federation intelligence center on Rigel Station. The facility was heavily defended, but Choi's team moved through it like they owned the place. They knew exactly how each alien species would respond to threats, how they communicated with each other, and where their weaknesses lay. Within 2 hours, they had captured the station's entire database and were broadcasting Federation military secrets to human forces throughout the galaxy. The intelligence was devastating. It revealed not just Federation military positions, but also the growing panic among alien leadership. "They're starting to blame each other for the war," Choi reported to Admiral Lee. "The Veltar are angry because their technology is being used against them. The Mordan are questioning why they joined the conspiracy. Even some Krethak hives are beginning to act independently." Admiral Lee smiled grimly as he read the intelligence reports. The Federation was fracturing exactly as human analysts had predicted. Without a common enemy to unite them, the alien species were reverting to their old rivalries and suspicions. "Perfect," he said. "A divided enemy is a defeated enemy. Continue psychological operations. I want every Federation world to know that their leaders led them into a war they can't win." The psychological warfare was devastatingly effective because it was based on truth. Human forces were advancing on every front. Federation technology was proving inferior to human improvements. Alien colonies were surrendering rather than face human assault. Most importantly, the moral dimension of the war was becoming clear to everyone in the galaxy. The Federation had started the conflict with an attempted genocide. Humans were ending it by offering mercy to those who surrendered and justice to those who didn't. Dr. Yoonji Kim had established medical stations throughout the liberated territories, treating human and alien casualties alike. Her research into alien biology, originally designed to help species work together, now helped human doctors save lives regardless of species. "This is what the Federation never understood," she told a gathering of alien medical personnel who had defected to the human side. "We don't fight because we hate aliens. We fight because we believe in principles that are bigger than anyone. Species, freedom, justice, the right to exist. These things matter whether you're human or alien." Many aliens were beginning to agree. Refugee camps on human worlds were filling with aliens who had fled Federation territory rather than participate in the war. They spoke of human kindness, human mercy, and human justice in ways that made their own leaders look like monsters. As Operation Fury reached its climax, General Kang received reports from across the galaxy. Human colonies were being liberated, one by one. Federation forces were surrendering or fleeing rather than face human assault. The tide of war had completely reversed. 1 year ago, they controlled most of the galaxy, she said to her staff. Now they're running scared from a species they tried to exterminate. How's that for irony? The Federation had awakened something they couldn't control or defeat. Humanity was no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the future of galactic civilization. And they were winning so decisively that the outcome was no longer in doubt. The only question now was how much of the Federation would survive what they had brought upon themselves. 18 months after the betrayal, humanity controlled half the galaxy. Admiral Minho Lee stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching the siege of Nexus Prime unfold before him. The Federation capital world, once a symbol of galactic cooperation, was now the last major stronghold of the alien conspiracy. "All fleets report ready for final assault," announced his tactical officer. 300 human ships are in position around the planet. Ground forces are prepared for landing operations. Admiral Lee had proven that humans weren't just superior fighters. They were superior strategists. Every move he made was calculated to achieve maximum effect with minimum waste. He didn't just win battles. He won them so decisively that enemy morale collapsed completely. "What's the status of the planetary defenses?" "Mostly disabled by Dr. Kim's biological agents," came the reply. "The remaining systems are using outdated Federation technology. Our weapons should cut through them easily." The siege of Nexus Prime was the culmination of a campaign that had rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. Human fleets moved faster than anyone thought possible, struck harder than their size suggested, and adapted to changing conditions in ways that baffled alien commanders. Captain Jinho Park led the first wave of assault ships toward the planet's surface. His vessel, now equipped with technology that combined the best features of every Federation race, was a perfect example of humanity's greatest advantage: the ability to take good ideas from anywhere and make them better. "Remember," he told his crew as they descended through the atmosphere, "we're not here for revenge. We're here for justice. The Federation leaders who planned genocide will face trial. Everyone else gets a chance to surrender." This was the difference that aliens couldn't understand. Humans could be absolutely ruthless in achieving their objectives, but they didn't confuse cruelty with strength. They fought to win, not to inflict suffering. On the planet's surface, Federation forces were discovering what it meant to face human. Ground troops. Colonel Minji Han's mobile strike forces moved through the city like water flowing around obstacles. They used captured alien equipment better than its original operators, combined different technologies in unexpected ways, and adapted their tactics to each specific situation. "How are they everywhere at once?" demanded a Saurian general as his forces were surrounded for the third time that day. "We outnumber them 10-1, but they seem to control the entire battlefield." The answer was coordination. Human forces shared information instantly through quantum communication networks that Engineer Ko had built using improved Veltar crystal technology. Every soldier knew where every other soldier was, what they were doing, and how they could help. More importantly, every human soldier was thinking, planning, and adapting independently while working toward the same goal. Unlike alien forces that relied on rigid command structures, humans could modify their tactics in real time based on local conditions. Lieutenant Yuna Choi was leading a special mission to capture the Federation leadership alive. Her team had penetrated the deepest levels of the government complex, moving through areas that should have been impossible to reach. "Target is 3 levels down," she reported through her communicator. "Hive Queen Zekhai and War Marshal Thexvor are in the Emergency Command Center. Security is heavy, but they're using predictable alien tactics." What the Federation leaders didn't realize was that their own security systems had been compromised months ago. Human intelligence networks had infiltrated every level of alien society, recruiting sympathizers and turning former enemies into allies. In the command center, Hive Queen Zekhai was watching her civilization collapse in real time. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human fleets advancing on multiple fronts, Federation worlds surrendering without a fight, alien populations rising up against their own governments. "How did this happen?" she demanded of War Marshal Thexvor. "We had superior numbers, superior technology, superior positions. How are we losing to a single species that we should have exterminated 18 months ago?" The reptilian war leader's scales had turned a pale color that indicated fear and despair. "We underestimated them. We thought their emotions made them weak, but those same emotions make them stronger. They fight for each other, for their families, for principles we don't understand. We fight because we're ordered to." The truth was more complex than either alien leader understood. Humans had spent centuries learning how to work with other species, studying their strengths and weaknesses, understanding their psychology and tactics. When the Federation turned hostile, humans had simply used that knowledge for war instead of peace. Dr. Yoonji Kim was coordinating the biological warfare that had crippled Federation technology throughout the galaxy. Her agents didn't just disable alien systems, they made them unreliable and dangerous. Federation commanders could never be sure if their weapons would fire, their shields would hold, or their engines would respond. The key was understanding that their technology is biological, she explained to a gathering of human scientists. They integrate living systems with mechanical ones in ways we never did. That gave us targets we could attack without harming the users directly. But Kim's greatest achievement was selective targeting. Her biological agents could be programmed to affect specific alien species while leaving others unharmed. This allowed humans to turn Federation allies against each other by disabling some fleets while leaving others operational. As the battle for Nexus Prime continued, the Federation's last-ditch effort to negotiate became increasingly desperate. They sent envoys under flags of truce, offering to return to pre-war boundaries and restore the old alliance. General Kang's response was broadcast across the galaxy. "You started a war of extermination. You tried to genocide our entire species because you feared our success. Now you want to negotiate? There will be no compromise, no return to the past. You will surrender unconditionally, or you will be destroyed." The message was clear to every alien who heard it. Humanity was no longer the same species that had served as galactic peacekeepers. The betrayal had transformed them into something harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. Engineer Ko's workshops were producing weapons and ships that made pre-war technology look primitive. Human vessels could now outrun anything in the galaxy, strike from impossible distances, and adapt their configurations in real time. They were works of art that happened to be instruments of war. "We're not just winning," Ko observed as he watched test results from his latest designs. "We're revolutionizing what winning looks like. Every battle teaches us something new about what's possible." The revolution was psychological as much as technological. Alien species that had considered themselves masters of the galaxy were learning that they had been surpassed by beings they'd dismissed as inferior. The implications went far beyond military defeat. On worlds throughout the former Federation, alien populations were rebelling against their own governments. They had seen what human civilization offered: justice, freedom, opportunity, and they wanted those things for themselves. The war was becoming a liberation rather than a conquest. As human forces closed in on the Federation Command Center, Hive Queen Zekhi made one final attempt to escape. But Lieutenant Choi's team was waiting for her. The capture was swift, efficient, and conducted with a professionalism that must have been galling to someone who had ordered humanity's extinction. "Hive Queen Zekhi," Choi said formally, "you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit genocide, crimes against sentient beings, and violations of galactic law. You will be given a fair trial before an impartial tribunal." The alien leader's compound eyes stared at the human officer in disbelief. "You're actually going to give me a trial after everything my people did to yours?" "We're not you," Choi replied simply. "We believe in justice, not revenge." As the last Federation strongholds fell one by one, the galaxy was learning what human victory looked like. It wasn't the cruel domination that aliens had expected. It was something far more threatening to those who had abused their power. It was justice, fairly applied and impartially enforced. The war was nearly over, but the galaxy's transformation was just beginning. 2 years after the betrayal, the Federation was in full retreat. Admiral Minho Lee commanded a fleet of 500 human ships, pursuing the last organized alien forces to their core worlds. What had begun as humanity's darkest hour had become the Federation's final judgment. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from the Mordan High Council," reported his communications officer. "They're requesting terms for their entire species." "Too late for terms," Lee replied coldly. They had 18 months to surrender. Now they faced the consequences of their choice. The Mordan had been among the worst offenders during the genocide attempt. Their bioweapons had been specifically designed to cause maximum suffering to human prisoners. Lee had seen the recordings from liberated prison camps, and his mercy had limits. Captain Jinho Park was leading the assault on Saros Prime, the Saurian homeworld. War Marshal Thexavor had refused humanity's final surrender offer, choosing to make a last stand among his own people. It was a decision that would doom his entire species. "The planetary defenses are stronger than expected," reported Commander Hyoknam. "They've concentrated everything they have left here." "It won't be enough," Jinho replied grimly. "They're still using the same tactics that failed them 2 years ago. They never learned that fighting humans isn't about having superior firepower. It's about adaptation." The battle for Saros Prime showcased how far human military technology had advanced. Ships that could reshape themselves in combat, weapons that learned from each shot, shields that adapted to whatever attacked them. The Saurians fought bravely, but they were using yesterday's technology against tomorrow's warriors. Engineer Taeyang Ko watched the battle from his command ship, monitoring the performance of his latest weapons systems. Human technology had evolved, so far beyond its Federation origins that it was barely recognizable. They had taken alien concepts and pushed them into realms the original designers never imagined. "Energy efficiency is up 40% from the last generation," Ko reported to his team. "Adaptive targeting systems are performing perfectly, and the new quantum processing cores are handling combat calculations faster than biological neural networks. The irony was bitter. The Federation had tried to destroy humanity because they feared human technological progress. Instead, they had accelerated that progress beyond all previous limits. The war had compressed centuries of development into 2 years of desperate innovation. On Earth, Dr. Yoonji Kim was facing a moral crisis. Her biological weapons had become increasingly sophisticated, capable of targeting specific genetic markers within alien populations. She could now eliminate entire species with a single deployment, but the weight of that responsibility was crushing her. The Veltar resistance movement is requesting selective biological agents, Intelligence Officer Da Hyun-yu told her during their weekly meeting. They want to eliminate their leadership caste while sparing the general population. Kim stared at the request for a long moment. A year ago, she would have rejected it immediately. Now, after seeing what the Federation had done to human prisoners, her moral certainty was less clear. Develop the agents, she finally decided, but with strict safeguards. Target only the specific genetic markers of the leadership caste. No collateral effects, no environmental persistence. If we're going to be gods of death, we'll at least be precise ones. The war had changed everyone, but perhaps none more than Lieutenant Yuna Choi. She had become humanity's most feared special operations commander, the person alien leaders saw in their nightmares. Her teams could penetrate any defense, capture any target, and accomplish missions that seemed impossible. Today she was leading the assault on the Krethak primary hive world. The insectoid species had been the original architects of the genocide conspiracy, and they would be among the last to face judgment. Remember, she told her troops as their ships approached the planet, the hive structure means taking out the queen will paralyze the entire population. But there are millions of drones down there who never chose this war. We eliminate the leadership, not the innocent. This distinction mattered to humans in ways that aliens couldn't understand. Even in total war, even facing species that had tried to exterminate them, humans maintained their moral compass. They fought to win, not to inflict suffering. The assault on the hive world was swift and surgical. Choi's teams moved through the underground tunnels like ghosts, using their understanding of Krethak psychology to avoid unnecessary confrontation. They reached the Queen's chamber within hours, cutting through defenses that should have taken days to penetrate. The Hive Queen herself was already a prisoner, captured during the fall of Nexus Prime. But her replacement had proven equally uncompromising, refusing all surrender offers and ordering her drones to fight to the death. Hive Queen Rektha, Choi announced, as her team secured the chamber. By the authority of the Human Defense Coalition, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient beings. The capture of the Hive leadership had an immediate effect. Across the planet, millions of Krethak drones simply stopped fighting. Without their queen to guide them, they reverted to their base programming, survive and await new orders. But those orders would never come. The age of Krethak expansion was over, ended by a species they had dismissed as weak and emotional. General Subin Kang was overseeing the final phase of the war from Earth, coordinating the liberation of the last Federation prison camps. What her forces found there would be remembered for generations, evidence of atrocities that justified every human action in the war. The camps on Rigel 7 held 50,000 human prisoners, Colonel Minji Han reported. Less than 10,000 were still alive when we arrived. The aliens had been using them for biological experiments. Kang's face remained impassive, but her staff could see the fury burning in her eyes. The Federation had claimed they feared human aggression, but their Own actions revealed who the real monsters were. "Document everything," she ordered. "I want complete records of every atrocity, every experiment, every murder. When this war ends, the galaxy will know exactly what the Federation really was." The evidence was overwhelming and damning. The aliens hadn't just tried to eliminate humanity. They had tortured and experimented on human prisoners with a cruelty that shocked even hardened military officers. Any remaining sympathy for the Federation cause evaporated in the face of such systematic brutality. As the last Federation strongholds fell one by one, alien governments began collapsing from within. Populations that had supported the war turned against their leaders when they learned the truth about the prison camps. The moral authority of the Federation was utterly destroyed. Director Jin Woo Song, now commanding the orbital defenses of a dozen worlds, watched as Federation refugees fled toward neutral space. Many were civilians who had never supported the war, but some were war criminals trying to escape justice. "Let the civilians pass," he ordered his fleet commanders, "but scan every ship. Anyone on the war crimes database gets detained for trial." This was humanity's final gift to the galaxy. Justice applied fairly and impartially. They didn't seek revenge against entire species, but they would ensure that those responsible for atrocities faced consequences. The Federation was broken, its military defeated, its leadership captured or dead. But the hardest part of the war was just beginning, deciding what would replace the civilization that humanity had destroyed. In the ruins of what had once been the Galactic Federation, new governments were emerging. Some alien species were establishing democratic institutions based on human examples. Others were fragmenting into smaller, more manageable political units. A few were simply waiting to see what humanity would demand of them. The galaxy was learning that humans made very different conquerors than anyone expected. They didn't seek domination for its own sake, but they were absolutely determined to prevent future genocide attempts. The new order they were building would be based on justice, not strength. But first, the architects of the original betrayal had to face the consequences of their actions. War Marshal Thexvor died in the ruins of his capital city, refusing to surrender even as his world burned around him. He got the warrior's death he wanted, but his species paid the price for his pride. The war was almost over, but its lessons would echo through galactic history forever. The Federation had tried to destroy humanity because they feared human potential. Instead, they had unleashed that potential in its most terrible and magnificent form. The galaxy would never again underestimate the species that forgave much, forgot nothing, and never, ever lost. 3 years after the betrayal, the war was finally over. General Subin Kang stood in the ruins of Nexus Prime, accepting the unconditional surrender of the last Federation forces. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy, marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. Hive Queen Zek-Hai was among the few surviving alien leaders present for the surrender. Her compound eyes showed no emotion as she formally acknowledged humanity's victory, but everyone watching understood the significance of the moment. The species that had tried to commit genocide was now kneeling before their intended victims. "The Galactic Federation is dissolved," General Kang announced to the assembled representatives. "In its place, we established the Terran Confederation, a new government based on justice, equality, and the protection of all sentient beings." The terms were surprisingly generous, considering what the Federation had attempted. Species that had actively participated in the genocide, faced restrictions and reparations, but they retained the right to govern their internal affairs. Those who had remained neutral or helped human refugees received favorable trade agreements and technological assistance. Captain Jinho Park, now appointed as the first human governor-general of the former Federation territories, began implementing the reconstruction policies that Dr. Yoonji Kim had designed. The goal was lasting peace through integration rather than domination. "We're not here to rule you," Park explained to a gathering of alien planetary governors. "We're here to ensure that what happened to humanity never happens to anyone else. The new order will be based on law, not strength." The transformation was remarkable. Within months, worlds that had been torn apart by war were rebuilding with human assistance. Engineer Taiyang Ko's teams shared their advanced technology freely, helping alien civilizations repair the damage caused by the conflict. The Federation hoarded knowledge and used it as a weapon, Ko told his mixed human-alien engineering teams. "We're going to do the opposite. When everyone has access to the same technology, no one can use technological superiority to oppress others." This approach was revolutionary. For the first time in galactic history, advanced technology was being shared freely rather than used to maintain power structures. The result was an explosion of innovation as different species combined their knowledge in unprecedented ways. Dr. Kim had established medical and research centers throughout the former Federation territory. Her teams, now including many alien scientists, were working to heal the wounds of war, both physical and psychological. "The key to lasting peace is understanding," she explained to a conference of galactic leaders. "When different species truly understand each other's needs and capabilities, cooperation becomes natural rather than forced." Her research stations had become symbols of the new order. Humans and aliens worked side by side, combining their different perspectives to solve problems that neither could address alone. It was the cooperation that the old Federation had claimed to represent, but had never actually achieved. Admiral Minho Lee was overseeing the integration of former Federation military units into the new Confederation Defense Force. It was a delicate process, requiring him to determine which alien officers could be trusted with military responsibility. "We judge based on actions, not species," he told his staff. "An alien who protected human refugees during the war gets more trust than a human who collaborated with the enemy." This principle of merit-based evaluation was applied throughout the new government. Species membership didn't determine political rights or responsibilities. Individual actions did. It was a radical departure from the biological hierarchies that had dominated galactic politics for millennia. Lieutenant Yuna Choi had transitioned from special operations to law enforcement, leading the teams that hunted down war criminals throughout the galaxy. Her work was methodical and impartial, focusing on evidence rather than species loyalty. "Justice is species blind," she explained to a mixed jury hearing war crimes cases. "What matters is what someone did, not what they are. A human who committed atrocities faces the same consequences as an alien who did the same." The trials were conducted with a fairness that surprised many aliens. They had expected victors' justice with predetermined outcomes and token procedures. Instead, they got genuine legal proceedings, with evidence, witnesses, and the possibility of acquittal for those who could prove their innocence. Intelligence Officer Da-Yun Yu had established the Confederation Intelligence Service, an organization dedicated to preventing future genocides. Her teams monitored political developments throughout the galaxy, watching for signs of the ethnic hatred that had led to the war. "We learned the hard way that ignoring warning signs can be fatal," she told her agents. Never again will we be caught unprepared by those who mistake cooperation for weakness. The intelligence service was unique in galactic history, a security organization whose primary mission was protecting potential victims rather than serving the government that funded it. It represented humanity's commitment to preventing future atrocities regardless of who might be targeted. Director Jinwoo Song had become the commander of the Confederation Space Service, overseeing both military and civilian space operations. His fleets patrolled trade routes, responded to emergencies, and maintained the peace that humanity had fought so hard to establish. "Space belongs to everyone," he declared at the opening of the new Confederation Space Academy. "Our job is to make sure it stays that way." The Academy accepted students from every species in the Confederation, training them together in integrated programs that would have been impossible under the old Federation system. It was producing a new generation of leaders who saw cooperation as normal rather than exceptional. As the new order stabilized, the galaxy began to understand what humanity had really accomplished. They hadn't just won a war. They had revolutionized the concept of galactic governance. The Terran Confederation was more than a political entity. It was a new way of thinking about how different species could coexist. The economic transformation was equally dramatic. Human trade policies eliminated many of the barriers that had kept alien species competing rather than cooperating. Free flow of goods, services, and knowledge created prosperity on a scale the galaxy had never seen. When everyone benefits from cooperation, no one benefits from conflict, observed one alien economist. The humans have made war economically obsolete, but the most profound change was cultural. Young aliens throughout the galaxy were growing up with human values. Justice, equality, individual rights, and the belief that peaceful cooperation was possible between any species willing to try. The old Federation had been built on fear and hierarchy. Different species had maintained their power by keeping others weak and divided. The Terran Confederation was built on hope and mutual benefit, creating strength through unity rather than division. As Captain Park toured the rebuilt worlds of the former Federation, he reflected on how much had changed since that celebration on Nexus Prime 4 years ago. The naive optimism of the old Federation had been replaced by something stronger, a realistic understanding of what cooperation required and what it could achieve. The galaxy had learned its lesson about underestimating humanity, but more importantly, it had learned about the kind of civilization that humans were willing to build when given the chance. It wasn't perfect, but it was just, and that was more than most species had dared to hope for. In the final scene of humanity's greatest triumph, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on Earth for the first Confederation Assembly. The meeting was held in the same hall where the United Nations had once convened, but now it hosted beings from 1,000 different worlds. General Kang, now the first president of the Terran Confederation, addressed the assembly with words that would be remembered for generations. 3 years ago, some of you tried to destroy us because you feared what humanity might become. You were right to fear us, but not for the reasons you thought. You should have feared our capacity for justice, our determination to protect the innocent, and our refusal to accept that genocide is ever an acceptable solution to political problems. She paused, looking out at the sea of human and alien faces, before continuing. The galaxy tried to break humanity and failed. In the process, humanity has remade the galaxy. We have shown that cooperation is stronger than competition, that justice is more powerful than force, and that the future belongs to those who choose hope over fear. The assembly erupted in applause that crossed species lines. In that moment, everyone present understood that they were witnessing the birth of something unprecedented, a truly galactic civilization based on the principle that all sentient life had value. The Federation had betrayed humanity and faced destruction on a galactic scale. But from that destruction had risen something better, something that gave every species in the galaxy reason to hope for a brighter future. Humanity had forgiven much, forgotten nothing, and built a civilization that would ensure they never had to fight such a war again. The galaxy would remember the price of betrayal, but more importantly, it would remember the rewards of choosing cooperation over conflict. The stars that had once burned with the fires of war now shone with the light of peace. And at the center of it all was a small blue world whose people,